Hello and happy holidays, ladies and gentlemen. This is JEEVES, your host, and welcome to another episode of Drawn to Obscurity. Well, Christmas time is just about here, guys, and I thought I'd bring some of that holiday spirit onto the show. There's a fireplace a-roaring, we got the lights, there's some nice Christmas songs playing, and we got the finest hot chocolate money can buy. But most importantly, we've got some Christmas specials. Yes, Christmas may come once a year, but until then, these specials are always there to get us prepared. And why wouldn't they be? There's so damn many of them. The amount of cartoon specials dedicated to this holiday could play back to back from December 1st all the way up to the 25th, and beyond. Of course, I still enjoy watching some good Christmas specials every year, but with the overabundance of them, it's easy for some of the lesser known gems to get lost in this sea of holiday cheer. And that's exactly why we're here, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're taking a look at some of the lesser known Christmas specials out there that I think deserve a little more attention. So sit back, drink some hot cocoa. Ew, cold. Let's do this. Alright, so the first special we're looking at is 1985's George and the Christmas Star. Our main character, George, is putting the finishing touches on his Christmas tree one night when he can't quite decide what to put on top of it. But the answer comes from above, as George builds himself a spaceship and sets off to get the actual Christmas star to put on his tree. As one would do. Seriously though, this is one strange cartoon. Throughout George's adventure, he crash lands near a space motel owned by a robot who sings and plays a mean keyboard, who then joins him on his quest, and they come across robotic space rangers, space pirates, a lady astronaut who got stranded because her ship parts were sold to bikers, oh yeah, there's a space biker gang, and then there's Santa, because I guess Santa does intergalactic travel. Oh yeah, and did I mention they're going to capture a literal star? What's even weirder is that none of this ever really phases George, he just sorta goes along with it. But I suppose the chaos does make sense when you look at who is behind it. George and the Christmas Star is brought to us from writer and director Gerald Potterton, better known for his previous work on the 1981 film Heavy Metal. Heavy Metal. Christmas. Christmas. Heavy Metal. I don't see a difference. As nonsensical as this cartoon is, I still found it pretty entertaining. And you know, I think part of that was from not really knowing what was going to happen next. Watching this, you may get to certain plot points and say, oh, that sounds about right, but everything else in between is just one surprise after another. Now this might feel too random and bother some people, which is understandable, but personally I didn't mind. Though I will say one thing that definitely did rub me the wrong way was George's voice. It's just super monotoned and it makes everything he says sound awkward.
There was only one little problem. We are out of fuel.
Oh, no!
Oh, yes.
You're so beautiful.
The animation here isn't impressive, but it still has a bit of charm to it. The character designs are kinda reminiscent of Sunday comic strips, so even a small animation budget is enough to suit them. But I have to give major props to whoever designed and drew all these spacecrafts because they look absolutely amazing. Overall, not the greatest on this list, but an interesting watch nonetheless. And hey, if the director of Heavy Metal can't make it weird enough for you, how about the director of Heavy Traffic? I'm of course talking about Ralph Bakshi. Yep, that Ralph Bakshi. Bakshi was fairly well known in the 70s and 80s for creating some of the most surreal and gritty animated features, most, if not all, being strictly for adults. Blood, gore, nudity, death, racial slurs, and stereotypes, Bakshi's films were no strangers to these. So let's put them on Nickelodeon. 1988's Christmas in Tattertown. This half-hour special is about a little girl named Debbie who finds a strange book that transports her and her stuffed toys to Tattertown, where all the things we throw away come to life and live on their own. When Debbie finds out that the residents of Tattertown have never celebrated Christmas, she and her friends get the whole town together to celebrate it for the first time, all while an evil doll plots to stop them and take over the town. This sounds like an incredibly simple premise, but that doesn't stop the special from distinguishing itself, which is mainly due to the stylistic choices here. From the character designs, the background art, and the jazzy soundtrack, it's clear that Bakshi's animation team was going for a style reminiscent of cartoons from the 1930s, which is pretty fitting when you consider that most of the characters are anthropomorphic objects. Also, the concept of Tattertown being filled with junk really works well with Bakshi's usual settings of urban decay. All these things just help this cartoon stand out in its weirdness. I gotta say though, one thing I absolutely despised in this cartoon was the main character Debbie. This little girl is just so damn annoying. She has 3 attitude settings: overenthusiastic, angry, and obnoxiously sad. There is no in between. Everything she says just feels forced and unnatural, and her voice actress doesn't help much either.
When friends and relatives come over, we'd open the door, and a little flurry of snow would fall off the wreath.
Stop it. Get some help.
On the other hand, the villain, aka Muffet the Merciless, is about the best thing in this. She's a hot-tempered stuffed doll with smoker's lung, a slight stubble on her face, and is probably the most fleshed out character here. Her motivations are really well explained, so much so that I don't really want to give it away. It also helps that she has some of the funniest moments in this special.
Yoo-hoo, Muffet! Come back!
No! Stay away! It's so hard living with these lower life forms.
Oh, listen to that amateur ranting.
Now there are a couple of scenes with her that kind of feel like they don't need to be there, but look, I'm with Muffet. Any time away from Debbie is a damn good time. Something interesting I found while researching this special was that it was actually intended to be a pilot for an entire series, simply named Tattertown, which I'm pretty sure would have been the first Nicktoon. Yeah, you heard me right the first time. This aired on Nickelodeon as part of a potential cartoon series. However, after Christmas in Tattertown was aired, plans for a series were quickly scrapped, and this pilot would unfortunately remain a simple holiday special. And as much of a bummer as that is, there was no way Tattertown was going to become a full series if this pilot was any indication. To list a few examples of why: 1. There's a scene with Muffet about to eat a pie made out of tobacco and cigarettes. You can guarantee that something like this would upset a lot of parents if they saw their kids watching it. 2. Right after that, a robot eats the pie and then proceeds to piss out some liquid onto the floor. I know it's not that bad, but it's definitely questionable. And 3. There's this tree character that Debbie convinces to be the Christmas tree. He has a stereotypical Jewish accent, and there's a certain something that gets him on Debbie's side.
Look, Mr. Tannenbaum, being the official tree in the town square is quite an honor.
Amish!
But there's no competition.
No! Hurry, hey! Help me see! You've talked me into it. Where do I sign? I always wanted to be on Monopoly.
Yeah, safe to say, if something like that was gonna happen, even in just a few episodes, then this show was gonna be gone as soon as it arrived. Oh well. Like its characters, Tattertown may have been thrown away, but we still have one hell of a trippy Christmas special to remember it by. Next up, we have a more traditional special with an adaptation of the classic Charles Dickens novel. What? Yes, A Christmas Carol. Well... Okay, so in general, the story of A Christmas Carol has pretty much been done to death at this point. Like, really done to death. But, like I said at the beginning of this video, there's so many adaptations that some really good ones are bound to get lost among all the others. Case in point, 1971's A Christmas Carol. This television short stars Alistair Sim, who had actually started another previous adaptation, and I'll tell you, it has got to be the creepiest one I've seen yet. The animation style is based on the original novel's illustrations by John Leach, and I really think they translate well. It especially helps in creating the atmosphere for this short, one that's as eerie as it is immersive. The art is often dark, detailed, and sketchy, and a good amount of scenes are dead silent, leaving only the characters' voices, which really adds an impact to scenes like the appearance of Jacob Marley, and this pretty creepy scene with the ghost of Christmas Present.
Oh, God, to hear the insect on the leaf, pronouncing on the too much life among his hungry brothers in the dust.
I don't even know why it was like that, but I'm terrified and I like it. Oh, and speaking of which, this is apparently the first film adaptation to include every location the Ghost of Christmas Present shows Scrooge in the original novel. There's 3 specific scenes, one with a couple of miners, one in a lighthouse, and another with sailors, that usually got excluded from film adaptations before this. So to see one that's only about 25 minutes long actually taking the time to show them all is pretty cool. When looking into this version, I was pretty shocked to find out that people liked it so much that it got a short run in theaters, managing to win it an Oscar, making it the only adaptation of the story to do so. Some people got so angry at this that the Academy Awards made sure that a TV special could never win an Oscar again. Wow. Now, as good as I thought this was, I did have a problem with the pacing. The special was originally made for TV, so I can imagine it seemed much better paced in between commercials, but with absolutely no intermission, the story just sort of flies by, with maybe a slower scene here and there. Like these transition shots here, they're really fast and very sudden, though I guess these could just be stylistic choices? It just seems a little off to me. Either way, this is a well done adaptation of the novel, and to pull it off in under 30 minutes is pretty awesome. Whether you enjoy the adaptations or think they're overdone, this is definitely one worth watching. Let's get some actual liquid in here. I don't have a segue into this next one, so here's a clip from Jingle All the Way. Beautiful. Next! A wish for wings that work. Okay, so I gotta be honest here. There are quite a few things that I absolutely do not like in this one. But before that, let's look at the story. Adapted from the original book based on the comic strip Bloomberg, the short centers on Opus, our penguin protagonist, who desperately wants nothing more than to fly. So much so that it's pretty much treated like an addiction here. And so, time and time again, he tries his best to take flight. But whether it's an obstacle in his way, or the fact that he's a flightless bird, all of Opus's attempts are in vain, and finally he resorts to writing a letter to Santa, wishing for, what else? Wings that work. The story sounds cute and simple enough, right? So why dislike it? First off, there's Opus. I hate him. He's a selfish jerk of a main character, and I didn't enjoy watching him at all. He's just so incredibly obsessed with his desire to fly that he completely goes off on his best friend for messing up his flight attempt, even though Opus clearly allows him to help out when this guy is pretty much brain dead.
My cup runneth over with cats! You are the grand poobah of worthlessness, and you can't even fly!
After that, he completely shuts him out of his life and goes to cry about his wings some more. Boo friggity who, this penguin is just such a jerk. And it's not like, say, BoJack Horseman, where we're not supposed to see the main character in a positive light. Opus is treated as this cute, relatable person that we should be rooting for. What's worse is that the cat never gets an apology and just gets the shaft until the end of the special. That brings me to my other problem, and that's with the way the story ends. Now, I won't spoil anything for anyone who wants to see it, but let's just say that I felt like the ending sort of makes the whole moral of the story pointless. With the way the story progresses, it feels very obvious what the message is, and it's actually a pretty decent message, but as soon as the last scene comes, it's just thrown out the window. And with how much of a jerk Opus is, it really doesn't feel like he's earned anything by the end. I just don't like him. You're trash. Alright, so what did I like about this? Well, as much as I didn't enjoy hearing what was going on, I certainly did enjoy looking at it because this animation is great. The look of the original comic strip translates very well into animation, with clean character designs, fluid movement, and some very detailed backgrounds. Seriously, if you took out Opus's outburst and made this whole story silent, this would probably be a great little short. Talk about a wish for writing that works. I'm sorry. Another cool thing is that the special actually stars the late Robin Williams, who was cast under the pseudonym Sudi Nim. Oh, come on, that gets a laugh. We can hear Williams' voice in this scene where Opus goes to a support group for earthbound birds and meets a chicken who thinks she's a jet and a severely depressed kiwi. It is unfortunately coincidental that Williams plays the depressed kiwi, but regardless, he does deliver some funny lines about his small wings.
My puny kiwi wings weren't good enough for Dolores. She had to have an albatross with great, big, long wings. He was on hormones.
However, these few things are really all this special has going for it, while the rest is just poorly executed. But if none of my complaints seem like a problem to you, then by all means check it out. Well, we've had 2 bizarre Christmas specials from 2 directors of very bizarre movies, a traditional Christmas special that's often overlooked, and a Christmas special that probably should be overlooked. But out of all of these, nothing quite captures the spirit of Christmas more than our last entry. So to cap off this list in the best way possible, let's get on to our final Christmas special. Ziggys Gift. Based on the popular comic strip of the same name, this 25-minute short centers on our main character Ziggy volunteering to collect money for the poor as a street corner Santa. Little does he know, his employer is actually hiring Santas to collect money for him, and it's attracted the attention of law enforcement. And so, as Ziggy goes about spreading the holiday spirit, he unknowingly has to deal with a police officer tracking him down, as well as this creepy-looking thief trying to steal all the money he collects. Okay, so first off, I've gotta give props to the animators. The animation looks exactly like what you would see in a Ziggy comic brought to life. The character designs are on point and the backgrounds are done in these dark and washed out watercolors, which really suits the urban environment here. Animation is tough, regardless of quality, but here the effort clearly shows. Secondly, this is a very well written story. All of these subplots with the shady Santa employer, the police officer, and the thief mix together perfectly. They never felt like they were pointless or out of place, and wrap up in a very satisfying way. It's just fun to watch. Third, and most importantly, Ziggy is just such a good guy. In the comic strip, Ziggy is known for constantly getting the shaft in life, and we see some of that here as well. But even with a bad luck streak as big as his, he still goes out, volunteers to collect money for the poor, and does good for the sake of doing good.
Bless you, son.
No, I'm not crying.
I don't really have anything bad to say about this special, but I will say one thing I found weird was that in the comics Ziggy was known to speak, but here he's completely mute. I mean, sure, I can't imagine what the hell kind of voice would come out of this guy, but he has talked before. That's a nitpick anyway. The story is great, the animation is fantastic, and with some comedic timing and heartwarming moments, this is easily one of the best Christmas specials I've ever seen. Definitely look it up and give it a watch. And that about wraps it up for this episode, guys, as well as all the episodes in 2016. Yep, all 3 of them. What a year. But before we go, I'd just like to say thank you for giving this video a watch. I love Christmas and I love this show, so it was nice to bring the two together for all of you. And seeing as how New Year's is coming up, I resolved to bring you guys more than 3 episodes in a year. I don't know exactly what 2017 will hold for this show, but hopefully some of you guys will stick around to see. Well, that's about it for this episode, guys. Tune in next time for more Obscurity. This is Jeeves, your host, and see you next year. Happy holidays.